Buongiorno, good morning. Expat Lifestyle with Bads here. Saturday morning, it's about 18 degrees, getting up to about 24. Fantastic. Off on a walk this morning, as I normally do on a Saturday. And I know it'll finish with some pastries and a coffee, which I'm looking forward to. But I'm on Tornabuoni, the fashion street of Florence. This is the street I ride along every morning, going to the gym and off to work. And I'm coming up to the Santa Trinita Piazza. Always a lot happening along here. Named after the Santa Trinita Church, which is just on our right over here. But what I haven't really noticed up until recently is the big pillar here and the background to it. So it's a pillar of justice, and at the very top we have a statue called the Justice Statue. So the column of justice is standing exactly in the place where Cosimo I Medici in the 1500s was standing when he heard news that Florence had defeated the Siena, in a big battle just outside of Siena, where apparently over 10,000 men were killed. And so Pope Pius IV, being good friends with Cosimo, gifted him this column. It was an ancient Roman column actually, and it took over a year to barge it up, first in the Tiber River in Rome and then on the Arno River. It only took about 2 weeks to erect, but over a year to get here. Just amazing. The whole column was sent up by the Pope back in the day to, I guess, commemorate a famous victory over Siena. Now, the statue of justice is interesting. A female statue of justice. So there she is up there. She's holding a double-bladed sword and scales. It's a great view of Lady Justice, the scales representing a balanced argument, the need to listen to both sides of the story, and the double-edged sword decisions made. It's pretty brutal and pretty swift. And the 12th century Santa Trinita Church obviously leads to the name of this piazza, Piazza di Santa Trinita. It's a lovely church, the Santa Trinita Church. There are some lovely buildings in this piazza. It's well frequented actually, and a lot of street performers will stand at the base of the column of justice there and perform to often pretty big crowds. And the view back down Tornabuoni, the fashion street. Hey, it's a nice place to visit. So the Romans founded Florence in BC 59. Not long after, they built a wall. And that wall, the original wall, there's been 4 to 6 since. That's not conclusive, how many exactly. But that wall was built along the Tornabuoni, and the corner of it really was at the Santa Trinita Piazza. So imagine that, over 2,000 years ago. There were Roman walls right here where we stand. So if we head now to the south, come around this corner, you'll see the Santa Trinita Bridge, which leads over into Oltrarno and Santo Spirito, and to the left will be the Ponte Vecchio Bridge. So I'm walking over the Santa Trinita Bridge. We've got Ponte Vecchio. So once I walk over this bridge, the Santa Trinita Bridge, I'm going to do a quick left. I'm going to walk past the Pitti Palace and then up to one of 2 areas in Florence where the last walls that were built are in really good condition, and you can just appreciate the sort of work that went into it. Okay, so I'm going to turn left here. It's a lovely little laneway. And look, those who have seen my bistecca tiramisu episode, that's where the restaurant is. So if you're looking for a good steak, it's pretty good in there. So this laneway runs parallel with the Arno River. I'm actually walking back towards the Ponte Vecchio. Yes, there's some great buildings along here. Have a look at this tower. Well, that's great. It reminds me of San Gimignano, that tower. So coming up will be the southern side of the Ponte Vecchio Bridge. Look, it's late mid-morning Saturday. I'm expecting it to be pretty busy. Okay, so there's the bridge there with the Duomo in the background. As I said, quite busy. Let's keep heading. Let's keep heading south, up towards the Pitti Palace. So as I continue my walk towards the Arno wall and gate, here we are, passing the Pitti Palace. Certainly worth a visit, and the Bobbly Gardens behind are just magic. If you can visit the Bobbly Gardens early, it's a lovely magical experience inside. It's so relaxing, no crowds. You get there on opening about 9:15, you've got the gardens to yourself, and we're not just talking a little back garden here, it's a vast area, it's just fantastic. If we look at the lines there, that's extensive, isn't it? You're going to be standing in line for quite some time. So my advice would be to pre-purchase your tickets and get the beat the line ticket. It'll just save you so much more time. I know it's so many things to plan for when you're travelling, but that's a must really. You don't want to spend half your holiday in a line, do you? There's the Pitti Palace back there. I'll just show you something. It doesn't take you long, does it? Once you leave that tourist area, and look at the difference. The defensive walls are such a part, aren't they, of medieval towns and ancient towns. I mean, you just have to think about Monteriggioni and San Gimignano, for instance. Okay, something to be aware of. Here is another entrance to the Bobbly Gardens. And this is only 200 metres past the Pitti Palace. Now that's a big line for here. Something to think about, isn't it? And as we can see here, the gate had a large central entrance for horse-drawn carriages, and there are smaller lateral doors for pedestrian traffic. What about the original doors? They're still there in place. We'll have a look at them too. So look, I guess, are they the original doors? Probably. What a huge construction. All done by hand. Engineering. I don't know, how did they do it back in the day? The gate is massive, isn't it? Now, if you walk along to the right, along the wall over there, that'll take you all the way down to the Arno River. It's a great little walk. So this gate is on the Arno River. So I'm going to walk back towards the Porta Romana gate from this area on the river and show you what's left of the wall here. No, it's still very much intact, isn't it? They made things to last. Now this is a nice walk. Remember, about 8.5 kilometres of wall of this size. How many labourers would it have taken to build this? I guess people spent their whole life, stonemasons, their whole life, building a wall. This is off the beaten track a little bit, but we're only about not even that, 15 to 20 minutes walk back into the historical centre of Florence, and you get a great idea of the wall that was constructed, the wall that encircled Florence to keep the bad guys out. Back to the Porta Romana gate at Arno, and if we look ahead, that section of the wall in front of us winds its way over and down to San Niccolò. Within. Why did they build so many walls? Well, because the population kept increasing. And looking at the gate from outside the walls. Imagine I'm a peasant farmer, I've been toiling away all day and I've lost track of time because I don't have a watch or a smartphone, and I get to the gates and they're locked. Normally closed on sunset. What do? I knock on the door, of course, but the chances are I might have to sleep outside the walls for that night. I wouldn't feel too good about that. So if you walk through the gates to leave the old Florence, you come across this lovely road, the Viale Niccolò Machiavelli. And this road takes you up to the Piazzale Michelangelo. What about this? It's a beautiful environment. It can get busy on the road, so there's a bit of traffic if you go late mid-morning like I am right now. But early in the morning, a lot of runners. Actually the road, I see a lot of cyclists doing loops up and down. And it takes us up to Piazzale Michelangelo. Now, if you've seen my earlier episode, A Room with a View, I've sort of covered the background to that scenic lookout over Florence quite extensively. So I'm up on the top of Piazzale Michelangelo, and there's a good view of the original wall. That's come over the hill from the gate we walked through over at Oltrarno, and this winds itself down to the gate at San Nicolo, which we'll walk through on the way out. And as I pan across, there we have it. So the evidence is not conclusive whether it's 4 or 6 walls that were built around Florence. But what we do know is that there aren't too many of the original sections in place. I've shown you one, Oltrarno, already, and I'm about to get to the other really nice preserved section, the gate at San Nicolo, which you walk through to get up to and down the Piazzale Michelangelo section. So here is the preserved section of the San Nicolo gate and part of the original wall that surrounded Florence. Now this final outer wall, the 6th wall, was completed in 1333 to keep out all those invaders that wanted to take Florence. Power, territory, prestige. The thing it couldn't keep out 10 years later was, of course, the plague. So back in the 1800s, Giuseppe Poggi, an architect who was responsible for building the Piazzale Michelangelo, also was responsible for tearing down some walls to make way for a ring road around Florence. Unfortunate, looking back, hindsight, I guess we'd all love to see the original wall still in place, wouldn't we? I guess we could call Poggi a visionary, building a ring road prior to the invention of cars, horse and cart. It's standing Florence in good stead now. Unfortunately, they did keep an eastern and western gate. Okay, so 8.5 kilometres of walls were built, and we've only got 2 gates really still intact, and this one's at San Nicolo, which we're going to walk through now. So we can see the wall winding across, and it makes its way down to the Arno, and it did continue to surround Florence until I said those 1800s, when most sections were torn down to make way for a ring road. So there you go, and this takes us into San Nicolo. Lovely little spot here too. Just a little bit further away from the historical centre, you can find a nice little restaurant and have a drink in this part. Perhaps after viewing Piazzale Michelangelo, or even before. So I'm walking back along the Arno now, back towards Ponte Vecchio that way, and directly opposite me over here is a nice little cafe. I'm going to get some cakes, I deserve it. Melaleuca. I've shown you this cafe before. It's an Australian-owned cafe, very popular. If you like your desserts, that is the place to go to. Anyway, I'm going to get 2, maybe even 3 little cakes. By the way, I'm on my own this weekend, home alone. The boss, my wife, she's at a conference, so I'm going to get some cakes. I'm going to make a French press coffee and sit down, watch a bit of sport on TV. I've got control of the remote control. I like that. Doesn't happen that often. Just coming up towards the Justice column, Piazza Santa Trinita on Tornabuoni, where we started earlier this morning. Those interested in step counts, nearly 13,000. And as I return to the Santa Trinita Piazza, it sounds like a street performer is stealing the show for sure. There we go, a bit of opera happening. And this is what I mentioned earlier. Okay, very atmospheric. Oh, isn't that lovely? As she concludes. That's not surprising, there's a street performer there. Hey, expat lifestyle with Pads. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, thumbs up, subscribe, bell notifications on. See you next episode. Ciao.